Welcome everybody. We are back for our weekly mental health clinic. We've been going for almost 8 weeks now, so this is fantastic. Obviously, we are continuing to do this because we've had such amazing feedback and people are really appreciating and valuing the platform we've created, and it's really amazing for us to be able to put information back to support and empower and inspire all of you during these interesting, strange, Black Mirror dystopian times that we find ourselves in. So as you may well already know, if you've been watching us for the last few weeks, I am Neil Shah. I'm the Chief De-Stressing Officer of the Stress Management Society, which is a non-profit organization I set up about 20 years ago now. My job is very much around empowering and inspiring people to navigate challenges around mental health, stress and anxiety. And I got involved with the recovery campaign because I could see what was happening. The secondary pandemic, should I say, of mental health was clearly going to overtake the primary one that we've all been told to be very scared about. And the harsh reality is we had a mental health pandemic long before COVID arrived. So it's really important, even more so than ever before, that we create a platform and an environment where it's okay to admit that we're struggling. It's okay to not be okay, to put our hands up and admit when we're overwhelmed, and also to see vulnerability as a strength, not a weakness, because I think for far too long we viewed vulnerability as a weakness. So that's one of the reasons that I am here, and I'd like to hand over to introduce my lovely colleagues who are joining me today.
I'm Juliet. I've been here before. I wasn't here last week. I had FOMO, so I've come back. I'm a hypnotherapist. I work in Farnham in Surrey. I actually just compiled all my stats the other day, and I can say that I categorically work primarily with anxiety. It's not a surprise. I kind of thought that was the case. I knew it was the case, but I hadn't put it down on paper. And so many people are feeling anxious at the moment, as we all know. Yeah, and I got involved with the recovery group, actually really looking for a network of support for myself, because it was a struggle helping people in the pandemic because of all the restrictions placed on us. And now, surrounded by people like yourselves, I find it a lot easier to help others. And this is a great way to give back as well.
Amazing, thank you, and welcome back, Juliet. And we have a new face. Hello, Anya.
Hi, I'm Anya, and this is my first time to the clinic, so thank you for having me. I recently joined the International Wellbeing Insight as the Chief Magic Officer, and I also recently graduated in occupational psychology, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So mental health and well-being are great passions of mine, and I'm really pleased that I could join Neil to his amazing work that he's doing and contribute a little bit of magic to support what he's doing, and just help, raise the awareness around mental health and well-being.
Welcome, Anya, and we welcome you from somewhere a little bit warmer than where I am right now in northwest London. Where are you?
Seville, really hot actually, 30 degrees today. So yeah, not really pleasant to be outside. So shielding away from the sun.
Shielding away from the sun. Now that, I don't know if that makes me happy or miserable, but welcome all the way from Seville. So what's been going on this week? Well, obviously there's lots and lots of challenges. If the news is correct, we're about to go to war with France. If it wasn't crazy enough already, you know, gunships being sent to Jersey. And I think this week, let's do something different. Rather than let's talk about what has happened, which is what we normally do, let's talk about what is going to happen. And next week, am I correct, Anya, in saying next week is Mental Health Awareness Week?
Yeah.
Which we've just come to the end of Stress Awareness Month, which was April. And obviously next week is an important time for us to talk about and connect with all that we can do to support ourselves, our mental health, and each other's. Now, for far too long, mental health has been seen as an individual issue. That person has mental health issues, or that person is suffering with a mental illness. But I'm very rapidly coming to the conclusion that mental health and mental illness isn't an individual issue, it's a social issue. And I think this is a really good opportunity for us to spend a bit of time talking about this. So we are doing a little bit of a takeover. We're not going to focus on the questions this week. We're going to spend a bit of time just really talking about Mental Health Awareness Week, what it signifies, what the theme is for this week, for 2021, and what we can do to really ensure that we are empowering and inspiring ourselves and better equipping ourselves by increasing our resilience to cope with whatever the future holds. And that's why I'm really pleased to have you here, Anya, because I know you've been working on campaigns around this for some time now. Tell us a little bit about Mental Health Awareness Week 2021. What is the theme? What is the structure? And what is it that you're promoting?
No problem. So it's starting next Monday, 10th of May, and it runs until the 16th of May. And the theme is for this year is nature. And that's basically, as I'm sure you can relate to as well, since everything was closed, no shops, no bars, no clubs, people turned to nature, and it was one of the top coping strategic for mental health and just feeling better and reconnecting with nature. And I think that inspired us to kind of take a closer look, a deeper step into that, and really signpost our audience and followers to connect to their inner nature. So based on our research and on our data, we have 5 aspects to wellness, which is mental. Tell me.
Before we go into the 5 aspects, let's just explore this, because I think obviously there's something really important you mentioned here. I want to spend a bit of time digging in on this, because we're talking about connecting with nature, and I'm assuming that's not just going out and hugging a tree and going for a walk in the park. You mentioned sort of connecting with your inner nature. So what does that mean?
Well, that's looking at those 5 aspects, I think, and that's, it's not enough going into the nature. It's maybe a short living solution to go and feel good for 20 minutes and, you go breathe fresh air, you're looking at beautiful colors. But if we have a deeper issues inside of us, anxiety, stress, we can maybe reconnect for 20 minutes, but then as soon as we get back to our work or whatever we need to do, the stress comes back. So we need to go deeper. We need to look deeper in our aspects of what is actually crucial to our well-being in order to make the change.
So can I just be clear about this, just so we're all on the same page? So it's about the fact that what's happened over the last 12 months has taken us away from doing what we need to have optimal well-being. We've been taken away from our very nature of being able to connect and socialize and hug and be around people and travel and move and work freely. And Juliet, just, I want to bring you in. I know you've got some points to share as well, but someone that works in anxiety, that specializes in treating people with anxiety, how much is the fact that we've been taken away from our core nature, the core factors we need for well-being, how much of is featuring in people's anxiety at the moment?
Yeah, well, actually, I think a large part, though I think it started before the pandemic, and that's probably exasperated it, but it's this separation, this thing that nature is separate from us. We are nature. We're natural. I mean, there's no, there's a big difference between us and a tree, but we're just different entities. We're not robots. We're not computers. We're not produced in a factory. We are as natural as it comes. And yet there's been this huge separation, and we talk about connecting with nature as if it's separate. But we're nature, and that's been a huge part of my work recently. I wrote a blog post on it just this week about recognizing that we are nature, we are natural, and then merging back with what we now consider under the bracket of nature: the forest, the beach, the countryside, and recognizing that actually is where we belong. And like you say, Neil, connecting with each other. I was reading a study, I can't remember what it's called, but or what it was, but talking about how naturally we should live in tribal communities of about 150 people. Above that, they start to break and separate.
That's from Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari. He talks very extensively about that. Beyond that, you don't have the capacity, it becomes one in, one out. But I just want to drill into that, because you know, we've got two sort of very distinct themes here, which is connect with nature, so our natural surroundings, but then there's connect with our nature. So let's just kind of pick up on that. And I'm interested in getting both of your perspectives on how what's going on now and what's happened over not just the last 12 months, but was building for some time, how we're moving further and further away from our nature. Our nature is we are social creatures. We're designed to be connecting in social communities. You know, it was in 2018 that Britain employed a loneliness minister. Now, we live in a country of 65 or 70 odd million people, however many people it is these days. You're never lonely because there's always people around. So why do people feel so lonely? Why is loneliness being classified as a chronic mental health condition, where they're suggesting that almost a third of the population suffer from chronic loneliness? That study took place before COVID. I'd be scared to look at what the statistics are right now. We're spending more and more time on our screens. A study we did earlier this year has suggested people have had, if I can't remember the exact figure, I think 65 or 70% increase in screen time. We were not designed to be sat there looking at a screen and, you know, having conversations through our devices. That's another thing that's taken us away from our nature. You know, there are so many things that you know, body language, non-verbal communication. There are so many things that are part of our core needs that have been denied and deprived of us. So what is your perspectives, Anya and Julia, around how the fact that we've been taken away from our core nature, our core natural needs, and the impact that's having on people's mental health, and how that could lead to sort of anxiety and stress?
Sorry, Anya, I can see you about to say something, but when I was reading these studies to write this blog post I wrote, there was another one, again, sorry, I can't reel off the name and the dates and everything, but they took a group of teenagers, I think, out into the forest without screens for 5 days, actually just on a nature camp. But what they found was that their ability to interpret other people through facial expressions and things increased significantly compared to the control group. And so whilst it's great, you know, we're on screen now and this is lovely and it's really nice and I really enjoy it and it's really beneficial for our viewers and all of those great things, but it still stops our ability to empathize and connect from growing. And surely naturally that would grow from birth to get to wherever it gets to. And so the group that were taken into the forest, showing how theirs grew, that is surely how it should grow naturally, which would suggest that those who were still looking at the screens and not without screens for 5 days, theirs was actually hindered rather than growing naturally. So when we do all this like we're doing now, that's preventing our natural growth, I would say, reading that study.
No, absolutely. No, there's an important point there, because I can only see what's on this screen. And, you know, you guys you look wonderful from the waist up. You're all dressed and you're probably sat there in your underpants or your pajamas from the waist down, because we can't see that. And as much as we joke, you know, we're giving people just a window into our reality. They're not actually seeing the truth. They're not seeing what's going on over here in the piles of dirty laundry and the washing up that hasn't been done. And, you know, the fact that you're not dressed from the waist down, and all these kind of things, because you're just getting this little snapshot. And that is just a window into your reality. It's not the whole picture. And actually, we do need that. You know, actually, how much do you pick up when you're sat with a friend or a colleague from not what they say, but what they don't say? How much are you tuning in? And how does that change the nature of the connection we have with friends, colleagues, and loved ones when you're able to actually be in the same room as them? What's your thought, Anya? I know you've been doing some work on this.
So basically, I completely agree with both of you. And I think this, you know, the technology, as much as it has its own advantages, you know, it just helps us as well, like through this kind of thing, to put another mask, another layer on top of us. You know, we as human beings tend to put masks anyway, wherever we go. It depends on the social circles that we are going to. But because we are energetic beings, you know, we can feel the frequency and energy of each other when we are together. But if we are not in the same space, if we are not sharing the same environment, that's automatically cut off. And we can't get that digitally anymore. You know, maybe we can connect and with the person that we already know when we met in real life and we shared experiences with them. But if we haven't, we cannot create that connection. So ultimately, this is disconnecting us even more. It's just, I believe it's creating the, like creating the feeling that we are connected and staying connected, and but actually we are not connected, and it's not benefiting. It's not the same having a dinner and glass of wine over the Zoom, or going with a friend and laughing and having that physical contact, touch, that is so important, and we've been deprived of, and now we are all with masks. I'm in Spain here. You need to wear a mask as soon as you get outside. You don't see people's face anymore. I haven't recognized a friend yesterday because she had a mask on. I haven't seen her for a year, and I haven't recognized her. And this is the craziness. I think this is the crazy thing about it. We are becoming foreigners to people that we know, like we need to reconnect in a sense. We need to be physically close to each other,
We turned life into a video game, whether it's working or connecting with friends or socializing or dating or whatever, life has become a video game. It's not real anymore. It's happening on a screen, and like, in the same way that we're used to watching Netflix and people play the PlayStation or whatever else that they play, like, we just kind of created an alternate version of reality that lives on your computer, and people are actually struggling to connect in real time. Because I'm hearing a lot of stories of people that are scared of going back to normal now that things are starting to open up, to going back to work and meeting their friends, clients that are saying, we've got colleagues that are worried about coming back into work. It's like, but that's the most normal, natural thing to do, is to be around other human beings, to interact socially, to connect. And it really troubles me when people are scared to go back to living what is a more normal existence. So, again, I know, Juliet, you'll be working with people. I know, Anya, that you've been involved with kind of writing campaigns on this. What can we, what do we need to do to firstly recognize, before we jump to solutions? I know, Anya, you've got some ideas around a structure to put solutions in again. What do we need to do to recognize when we've moved away from our nature? How would you know that you moved away from having your core needs met?
Go on, Anya. I can say something, but I think you go.
Well, for me, I think it's really first becoming self-aware, coming back to our senses. Like, how do we feel? Like checking in with yourself on all the aspects. Because this is not normal. Like, if we're feeling, isolated, lonely, like, we need to acknowledge that. We need to talk about it. We need to say it. And I feel like lots of people are suffering but not talking about it, because there is pressure of like, well, we need to save lives, we need to wear the mask, we need to do this, we need to do that, because it's responsible as a citizen, you have to do it. And then you don't really talk about emotional effect on that, being deprived of all of that, of touch, of connection, of social circle, of going out and having your natural needs met. And I feel like, yes, it's talking about it and really sharing and saying, well, I had enough, like, this is enough, and what can we do about it? And then that would be a first step that I think person can do in order to create a change, in order to help themselves and from their own words. Yeah.
So essentially, to recognize when you're in a state that's not sustainable, or you're compromised, and be willing to put your hand up. So essentially, for what I'm hearing, and I do totally subscribe to this perspective, we should not be causing harm and suffering to prevent harm and suffering, because that doesn't make sense. But that feels like what's happening. That people's mental, emotional, social needs are being compromised to protect us and take action against one particular health risks. And I think particularly during Mental Health Awareness Week, it's really important that we recognize there are many other needs, and there are many other public health and social risks that affect our society. We cannot put all our eggs in one basket, because there are people that are struggling and suffering, and we know that from all the data we're getting back.
Yes, Neil, and exactly that. We are dividing again physical health from mental health. And, it's time to stop doing that. There is no health without mental health. Like, we really need to acknowledge that. And, concentrating now just on virus and the physical effect it has, and it can kill you. Where is the mental effect? Why we don't talk more about this? People are extremely suffering mentally, and it had huge, as we know, huge influence on people's well-being, mental well-being. And, you know, we need to talk more about that.
I'm not sure if we've brought it up in these clinics before, but you know, there's quite a lot of research been done at Harvard University where they've taken a virus and subjected a group of people to the virus, and only you know, a handful of those people will actually come down with the illness. And what they found is those that have high levels of stress, you know, poor levels of mental health, are the ones that get ill. And it's just so, like you said, there's no health without mental health.
So let's pick up on this, Juliet, because you've raised a really important point. You started how I would normally finish my story on this, because you provided data and evidence to back this up. But we don't need Harvard to tell us this. Anyone that has ever had periods of stress will know you are more susceptible to illness. Like, you don't need to be a doctor or a professor to know this, right? We've all had that experience. You're really stressed, you're overwhelmed, you've got a lot going on in your life, and you get ill. It happens. Why does that happen? There's a biological fact. This is not my opinion. This is not Juliet's opinion. It's not Anya's opinion. This is a biological, verifiable fact. When you are stressed, your immune system is suppressed. Again, I'm asking everyone, don't believe me, look this up for yourself. It's because your body has gone into survival mode. When you have produced the stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, your body's trying to stay alive. It's trying to fight or run away from that saber-toothed tiger. It's fine if you're, you know, actually dealing with saber-toothed tiger, because that situation can last a few minutes. When you end up living in that state, your body can't maintain it, because it's shut down non-essential systems like immune function, like digestion, like higher brain function, which is why you can't think clearly, which is why you might have a tummy upset or irritable bowel syndrome, or why you're more susceptible to illness. Now, let's just be clear about this. Again, this is not conspiracy theory. I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. This is biological fact. When someone is scared, would you agree that that produces stress hormones, that puts them in a state of stress? Would you guys agree with that?
No, it does.
Yeah, of course.
There's no need to agree. It's like you say, a fact.
Biological fact. So fear creates stress. Stress weakens the immune system, and when the immune system's weakened, we are more susceptible to illness, right? These are all verifiable facts. We're all on the same page, and I'm hoping everyone listening agrees with this. If not, I encourage you to look this up. Let's also consider what's happened here. Government-funded campaigns saying, look into Joe's eyes. Say you did everything to prevent you killing him. Or Mark went to the pub on the way home, went to see Granny and killed her. So basically, you've got a campaign of psychological warfare against the British population. And we're not the only government that's done this, by the way, that has created fear. Posters and television campaigns and radio adverts literally designed to make fear, encouraging people to be compliant. When they are scared, they do what they're told, but they also get stressed. And when they're stressed, they also get ill. The worst possible thing to do in the face of a virus or a public health risk is scare the crap out of the population, because they're more likely to get ill. But that's exactly what's happened. Rather than government-funded or NHS-funded campaigns saying, guys, eat healthy, make sure you meditate, get a good night's sleep, look after each other, maybe go and do some exercise. Maybe let's not shut the gyms down, because that's really important for people's well-being. Maybe encouraging people to eat healthy. And, you know, rather than, you know, keeping all the takeaways open and you can still go and buy booze, we're going to stop them doing things that make them feel healthy. Because if we actually cared about the health of our population, what we would have done is we would have banned the sale of alcohol, cigarettes, junk food, fast food, processed food. Now, a lot of people thinking, listening to this, are thinking to themselves, my God, Neil, that's crazy. How is that?
It's got a lot of people through. Sadly, a lot of people have turned to alcohol and drugs to get through.
But, and of course, now
that's the problem. That's the problem.
What concerns me is people that sit in there thinking that would be an extreme course of action. How is that any more extreme than shutting down the gyms, preventing people from hugging and kissing their family, preventing people from going to work? How is that any more extreme than the actions that were taken, which weren't designed with your health in mind? They were designed to control you and keep you in fear, which again is going to create a mental health issue, which in turn is going to make you sick, because exactly as Anya said, if your mental health is compromised, it affects your physical health and you get ill. So actually, everything that's happened here hasn't been to empower you and equip you to survive these challenges. It's been designed to make you compliant and do what you're told. And until we wake up to the fact that you've got critical thinking, you've got the ability to do your research, to actually figure out that we are being deprived of our core natural needs, which in turn are affecting us mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually, which is leaving us more susceptible to illness, which means that actually, you know, this virus has got a wonderful playground to play on, because we're all so stressed, we're all likely to get ill. sorry, rant over, but it really upsets me the fact that we have created a situation which is totally avoidable because we're not promoting health. What we're doing is getting people to be compliant. There's a massive difference between the two.
Yeah.
So
how can people get out in nature?
Yes. So more than just getting out in nature, Anya, I know you've got a plan, a structure. You've got some areas that we all need to look at. So, let's kind of, share us the framework and let's talk through each one so we can leave this on a high with people feeling empowered that they can do something to improve their mental and emotional well-being.
Well, people can definitely do something. And I think first and most of all is to acknowledge that we have control over our life, and how we're going to perceive things and what we're going to do in order to improve our mental health and well-being. The environment will always happen. Like, things outside of us will always be happening, and there'll always be something, if not virus, war, whatever. But we need to take control of what's going inside of us, and that's what our topic is. It's like connecting to our inner core nature to achieve optimal well-being, to achieve mental health, positive mental health. And the thing is, what we talk about is mental, so 5 aspects: mental, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual. And looking a little bit deeper into those aspects, for example, in mental, we talk about, following your thought processing and, the way you talk to yourself. Do you wake up and, your first instant voice is, oh, you're not worthy enough, or you're not good enough, get up, you're lazy, whatever. Like, how do we talk to ourselves? It's really, most of us have internal monologue. There are some people that don't, because of their auditory system and how they process the speech, but most of us do have. And it's really acknowledging and bringing the attention on how do we speak to ourselves, and having that choice. If you're gonna wake up in the morning and when you're washing your face, you're gonna come to the mirror and say, hello, beautiful, you're confident, you're amazing, I love you so much, you're so worthy of love, you're so worthy of everything that you have. Like, if you're gonna speak with kindness and compassion to yourself, or you're gonna go through the day and feeling unconfident because your inner monologue is, you're not worthy, you're not confident, you're ugly, you're fat, you need to lose weight, look, and this is the thing, like, I experienced this as well. Like, I used to talk to myself that way, seeing myself in a mirror, not liking what I see, and feeling unconfident and stuff. And then I trained myself to come back to say, hey, stop, like, this body of mine is amazing, like, it serves me on a daily basis, and I really need to acknowledge that. I need to love it for what it is. And I start introducing these practices. So that was our first kind of tip, to really check in with yourself and how you talk to yourself, and what is your thought process like. Is it constantly, there is a foundation that done research, we have between 12 to 60,000 thoughts per day, and 95% of them are repetitive and 80% are negative. So imagine that process, that pattern that is creating, if we have 80% of our thoughts negative and 95% of those thoughts are repeating, that's a negative pattern in our head that we are creating that manifests itself in a negative behavior. So
that's interesting, because how much of our thoughts are critical and negative? I would say 80% of my thoughts are, what am I going to eat next, to be honest. But I speak for myself.
Mine are as well.
But this is interesting, because obviously we've got the story that's going on internally, but also we've got the input as well, which is influencing what's happening up here. And if you spend your life watching round-the-clock news and another person died of COVID and another 10 people are in hospital, or another war started, or another tragedy's happened, or you're flicking through social media, and again, it's all this external feedback that's programming the way you think. Now, again, that's not a conspiracy theory. That if you watch the movie Social Dilemma on Netflix, again, there are algorithms that are literally designed to feed particular bits of information to you, which influence the way you think. to make you a good consumer, to get you to buy products, which is why all these products, when you think about it, it pops up in your advertising feed. So
can I just say, sorry, no, I just want to say, because I think a lot of people maybe don't realize how much we can be influenced. And we know, probably through our work and the things that we've read, how easy it is. And I reckon there's a lot of people who sit there thinking, well, that doesn't influence me. But it really, it really does. We're not that complex. I mean, we are complex, but we're not really. And people are employed to do this, and it works, and they can. And, you know, I think people probably maybe should accept that really, we're very easily manipulated.
Very easy.
Juliet, can I ask you a question? Because obviously you spend a lot of your time unpicking programming, whether that's programming because of, you know, tragedies, trauma, external events, failures, whatever. Yeah. So you're literally working with people's thought processes and helping them to heal from unresolved trauma. So, you know, how much of it is what's going on inside, and how much of that story we've developed about ourselves is due to ambient factors like society, external input, social media, family, etc.?
Well, I think it's almost all external. We're not born a blank slate, but I think we're massively changed through external factors. And I think there's certain things that are come from us internally, but then those things are affected by external things. You know, it's all so external.
So, guys, I think, you know, given the fact we've got 5 areas, as you've highlighted, Anya, to cover, let's wrap up the mental. What can we do? So what actions can we take to improve our mental well-being?
Okay, so first, which I already mentioned, is affirmation, positive affirmation. Wake up. You know, we have it on our website to download. You know, if you don't have any inspiration of what positive affirmations are, you can have a look there, or just, you know, make yourself whatever suits you, you know, that fits you and your personality, and those things that you know that will change your mindset to more positive. And then another one is gratitude. Very simple, acknowledging the blessings that we have around ourselves. We all have something to be grateful for. I know that we all coming from the different socioeconomic backgrounds, you know, the financial situation, the family abuses or not, like we all have different lives and all different circumstances that we live in and the challenges that we are facing, but we all also have things to be grateful for. So shifting our mindset from the negative stuff to more positive, not looking at the things that we need and we don't have, but things that we have, you know, concentrating on things that we have, it's you know, it's really valuable and significant, and it's going to shift your perception of, okay, you know, and mood and emotions to more positive. And the final one, which I think is the hardest one, and I don't know anyone who does it fully and completely, but is to be in the present. And you know, I as a yoga teacher always speak about it, being the present, you know, with your breath, with the connection of your breath and breathing, and concentrating on your breathing. And you know, being in the present, what does it mean? It's definitely, you know, not dwelling in the past or worrying about the future, but just acknowledging, you know, right here, right now, this moment, like 3 of us are speaking, listening to each other, and nothing else matters. And, you know, when we are doing tasks like this, and if we are creative, painting, or, you know, cooking or doing stuff like that, that's when we are present fully in the moment, and we are embracing that moment, because we are not really in our head thinking about something else, but we are fully in the action of what we're doing. And the exercise that we recommend is, if you're not maybe creative or you don't want to do anything like that, being in nature, going outside, walking, and then observing all the colors and shapes and light, you know, and just seeing, noticing without judgment, I think, you know, without trying, because it's in our human nature to judge every single thing that we see. Oh, it's pretty, it's ugly, is this, is that. Just drop all of that and just notice. And yeah, so that's it for mental.
Julia, have you got any suggestions or actions that people can do to improve their mental well-being?
There's so many things. From what Anya just said, there's so many things. I think I could talk for like an hour on each of those subjects. No, the only thing I would say, something that has come up a bit this week with regards to this is actually putting a plan in place. So, you know, I had one lovely client who I've been working with for a really long time who came in so positively last week. It was so nice to see, and had been out for a walk in, like really been out for a lovely walk in nature and really enjoyed it, and said that the next day they were going to go, they knew that they were going to go for another walk because it was just so beneficial. Next day came, they finished work, they were tired, they didn't know where they were going to go, they didn't have anyone to go with. It was just a lack of plan, really, meant that it didn't happen. And so we spoke. I haven't seen this person for their next session yet, so I don't know what happened, but we spoke about actually creating the plan when you know you're feeling the motivation, or when you've got the time. So when they got home from the first walk, to actually work out where they were going to go. There's some great apps. I've been using an app called All Trails. I don't know if you've heard of it, but you can just put in where you are and get a route, and actually finding the route, writing down the time you're going to go, how you're going to get there. You know, you're going to drive, you're going to walk to your walk, what are you going to do? And having everything planned. So when you kind of switch off the computer at the end of the day, you literally pick up your bit of paper with it all written on, walk out the door and just go. There's no thinking needed. And I think that is really helpful, because motivation is difficult. I mean, some people find motivation difficult anyway, but we've spent a year not really having to motivate ourselves. We roll out of bed, turn on the computer, and, you know,
Absolutely.
roll off the computer back onto the sofa. So,
and I think that's an important one. I'm going to come back to that point in a second when we go to physical. The only thing I would add is you guys have got some great ideas of what we could do, or what is going to help us. I'm also going to suggest something that we might want to minimize or avoid. We spend a hell of a lot of time on these things. So, a suggestion would be limit the amount of negative information that's coming through this device by having some rules and parameters around it. So maybe not spending your whole day, every spare moment, every time you go for a walk, every time you sat on the toilet, scrolling through the phone. And you're saying we've never done that. You know you have. Come on, be honest.
always.
So, rather than, constantly endlessly scrolling through Facebook or BBC or CNN or whatever, Sky News or whatever, limit that, or even stop doing that. If it doesn't uplift you and make you feel better about yourself and the world around you, logging onto the news, don't do it. If there's something really important, I promise you that information will find you. I don't watch the news, but when something happens, someone will tell me. I don't watch the news, but I know that there are warships that have been sent to Jersey because we're about to go to war with France, because someone shared that on a group that I'm on. So, the information that really is important will find its way to you, and the rest of it, don't worry about it. Does it enrich your life to know that? And again, constantly being on Facebook is not really living. That's not natural. So, a suggestion would be, at best, maybe the first hour of your day, when you start your day, don't turn your phone on straight away. Maybe use that time to, I don't know, journal, go for a walk, meditate, do some yoga, do a workout, spend some time with your family, sit down, have breakfast together. Maybe the last 2 hours of your day, you do something to wind down, read a book, listen to some music, again, take the dog out. And, having those little pockets where you're unplugged from the matrix, not just when you're asleep, but actually waking up so you can unplug from the matrix. Or take a leaf out of Juliet's book. Thursday's her no phone day, which is amazing. It's a nightmare when you're trying to get hold of Juliet on a Thursday, which has only happened once. But, I respect you for doing that, a day off grid. And I think that's so powerful. Amazing. So we've got 7 minutes and 4 more areas to cover. So this is a whistle-stop tour through the rest. However, I'm sure we can pick up on some of these at future clinics. So the next one is physical. I know that has suffered for a lot of people, because just those kind of natural opportunities to move. Juliet, you mentioned the daily commute. Normally we would get up, get ready, and we'd leave the house and commute to work. We'd get on the train, the bus, drive a car, on your bike, walk, whatever it is. There will be some physical movement. There's not many steps from your bedroom to wherever it is you work, your spare bedroom or your kitchen table or whatever else. So one of the things I'm going to suggest is put in a virtual commute if you're not back in a physical workplace. So when you get up, rather than splashing water on your face, throwing a shirt on and sitting there in your pajamas from the waist down, actually get up, get dressed, and go for a walk. Do a virtual commute, even minimum 10, 15 minutes. Walk around the block, come back in, and when you now arrive back, you come to work. You're not at home anymore. You now emotionally detached from I'm at home, now I'm at work. When you finish, you pack up your laptop, you log off, whatever, leave your house again, go for another walk. Doesn't matter it's raining. Because guess what? If it's pouring down and you're at work, you don't say to yourself, oh, it's pissing down, I'm just going to stay here for the night. If it's raining, you still go home, right? Now, if you've emotionally connected to the fact that I'm at work, and you're not going to sit there and stay there all night, are you? Because you're at work, so you have to leave. You have to do your commute and come back. And now when you open the door, you've now arrived back at home. It just creates a demarcation between work and home. It's going to give you those steps, it's going to give you some movement, and it's going to create that separation.
Great idea.
Yeah, and you know, also being mindful of what we eat. It's very easy to descend into kind of getting through all your lockdown snacks in the first afternoon of buying them, or binging on junk food, or you know, getting takeaways because you can't go out for dinners. But actually, as I said, the physical is the vehicle, as my coach always tells me. You look after the body, your body will look after the mind. So, have you guys got any quick tips on what we can do to ensure that we are looking after the physical?
I think that was a great one, what you said, you know, finishing work, going for the walk, and then coming back home, you know, I think that's great. But yes, that having frequent breaks from monitor as well, you know, stretching on your next to your table, just because when we are stressed and we are working and we have a task, a deadline, what we tend to do, we tend to tense our shoulders, and we are like working really hard, looking at our little screen, trying to do things, and, you know, hours pass by, and then only when we relax, you realize that everything is hurting and we are feeling really bad. So it's really to check in with ourselves again, to, you know, just check with your posture, you know, pull yourself up. And, you know, I just noticed I need to pull myself up, but you know what I mean? Because we are so, we forget about it. And, you know, pull your tummy belly, you know, pull your lower belly in a little bit, you know, to support your lower back so you don't have the pain and stuff like that, you know, bring your shoulders down. So all these little things, you know, and that you can tweak and really learn how to properly sit at desk, you know, to help your back and to help your physique to not have any pain.
Juliet, what's your top physical well-being tip?
Well, are we combining nutrition?
Yeah, of course.
With physical well-being?
Yeah.
Because I think that is so important. And I was thinking about this today, you know, I do see people who want to lose weight, and it's so challenging because, you know, I think we've moved from a place, I don't know, 60 years ago, where maybe, or maybe longer, where really it was hard to get hold of more processed foods. And now I think it's harder to kind of navigate your way through the supermarket and find the foods that aren't processed and the foods that we actually need. And so many people have forgotten that food is fuel. That's all it is. It's not supposed to be a celebratory tool. It's not supposed to be something that we use as a hobby. It's just supposed to fuel us. And, you know, sometimes as well, people are thinking, well, I'm eating some good foods, so the bad ones don't matter. Or they're just saying, I'm not eating that much food, but then they're not actually eating anything that gives their body the nutrition they need. And so their, you know, bodies are running. Well, you need to put petrol in a car to make the car move, or diesel, you know, or electricity. You need to put some kind of fuel in that car to make it move. And we need to put the fuel in our body. But if you're not putting the right fuel in, it's going to kind of chug along, and it might get there for a while, but then it's going to start to fail.
Absolutely. So I think that's a really important one. So obviously mental, what's going on up here, physical, what's happening in your body. Emotional is how you're feeling. Given the fact we've only got a couple of minutes left, we're going to have to kind of just come up with some top tips around this. So emotional is how you feel. And I think, you know, emotional expression is something that some of us, particularly blokes, have really struggled with. So if you've got a quick tip on what we can do to ensure that we're supporting our emotional well-being, and obviously we'll signpost before we finish where people can get more information should they want to dive into this in more detail. So you guys got a top tip on about emotional expression? I think that for me, Brené Brown's work about vulnerability as a strength, not a weakness, is really important, and getting better at putting your hand up and not seeing that as you're broken or something wrong with you. We all struggle. There are times we get overwhelmed, and putting your hand up is actually the first point of call for us to start healing from that and being able to connect with the people that we know will support us. So you guys got any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, for me, it's just allowing yourself to feel, really, and, you know, really expressing that emotion. And it's not even, you don't even need to cry, but just realizing when it's arising, and, you know, and seeing why is it coming, you know, what situation is causing for that emotion to arise. I think that's the key, because once we know where is this emotion coming from, what situation triggers that emotion, then we can work on the traumas and things that we have inside. So it's really, the key is to keep a track on like what situation triggers us. You know, is it the anxiety, the stress, the, you know, I don't know, the sadness, whatever it is, the anger. But we really need to concentrate on when the moment we feel, instead of getting involved in that emotion, we should rationalize why is it happening, you know. And I know that's a hard part, but once you start just bringing attention to when your emotion is arising, you need to see why, what is happening around me right now that is making me feel this way.
I think that's a really good segue into the next one, which is social. You know, we are social creatures, and over the last 12 months, we've been denied of many of the platforms and environments where we would have social connection. And, you know, asking for help is not a weakness. It's, for me, it's very much a strength. And the emotional expression is, you know, what do they say? A problem shared is a problem halved, or maybe even solved. And we've been denied because we've not been able to meet people. Hugs and kisses have been weaponized. I think it's really important, particularly as things are now starting to open up, where we're able to reconnect and nurture our social well-being, because we are a collective. And as I've already said, you know, mental health, mental well-being is not an individual problem. It's a social problem. What are your thoughts on what we can do to ensure our social well-being needs are met? Juliette, you got any thoughts on that?
Socially meet. Yeah, I was speaking with someone yesterday who is really struggling with depression, actually, and hadn't quite linked that depression to not being able to do things, being restricted. And now the depression is causing a lack of motivation, as it does. And so this person is now not feeling motivated enough to arrange to meet people, and is putting people off when they try to see her. And I think that that's what's really important, to try, you know, if there is that lack of emotion, just try and commit to doing something that you don't necessarily want to do or feel comfortable doing, knowing that once you get out there, you'll feel that little bit better, and the next time it will be that bit easier. So socially connecting, no matter how hard it might be to do it.
Absolutely. Meeting in person. I know for a long time we haven't been able to do this, and some people may struggle and be fearful about going back to that, but it is a core human need, and it's very important. It's one of the building blocks of wellness. It's very important that we do find ways to be able to socially connect in person, physically, not on a Zoom call. And the last one, which all we got time for today, is spiritual. Now, when I look at that, you know, that kind of conjures up image of going to a church, a temple, a mosque, or something like that, and, you know, reading the Bible, the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, and it's like, you know, that doesn't work for me. I'm, you know, no offense to anyone that has religious beliefs, but for me, spirituality and religion are not the same thing. In fact, I potentially go as far as saying that religion could be anti-spiritual, because spirituality, when you look that word up in the dictionary, it's quite literally connecting to something beyond yourself. It's belief in something greater. And I think particularly over the last couple of months, I've realized that I've been able to improve my spiritual well-being by connecting with people that believe the same things that I do, and actually coming together with the recovery campaign and being asked to step in as one of the co-founders was actually for me a way of being able to express my spiritual beliefs. This is something I believe in. This is something that's important. And I found a way to express that with like-minded people. Why is this important? Why is, you know, spirituality, spiritual expression, and spiritual well-being important to have optimal well-being and mental health?
I think you touched on the core of the thing. It's, you know, it's connecting to yourself, to your own beliefs. And, you know, once you're in line with what you believe, then I think you are living a purposeful life. You know, as long as your belief and your actions are not matching, there is that disconnection, and you're feeling frustrated and unsatisfied, and maybe you're not even realizing why. But when you start believing and speaking your truth and living what you believe, then, you know, you're automatically then, from my understanding, living your purpose, you know, and not necessarily we all know which direction and what we believe in, but as long as we get on the path and try to find it and, you know, connect with something that is beyond us, then, you know, we are looking for that purpose. We are looking for that belief to align our life and our beliefs.
Amazing. And look, you know, my struggle here is we've got such an amazing, wonderful conversation and we've only got a tiny amount of time. However, next week is Mental Health Awareness Week. So I would love to continue this conversation and dig a little bit deeper. So Anya, Julia, I'm hoping we can get you both back and hopefully Zoe will be available as well. And we can go deeper into this discussion and explore it in even more detail. And hopefully for those of you listening today, you can send us in some questions regarding any of the things that we talked about and any other challenges you're facing, and we can really open that up. So just like to finish with some closing thoughts. And Anya, where can we find out more information if people want resources or information or to learn more about this? Where could they go? And Julia, any final sort of closing comments or advice?
Okay, so for our resources, you can go to the stress.org UK and there will be a mental health awareness week page, and there could be downloads for the all sorts of resources for the 30-day challenge, which is completely free and really useful printable materials. And then you can sign up for our newsletter and get useful, amazing tips and through the newsletter as well from us.
So once again, that was stress.org.uk and the resources are there. Julia, any final thoughts, closing comments?
No, I think, you know, enjoy yourselves.
And yeah, like I'm going to echo that. I think my closing comment is that when you tune out from the outside world and you tune in, your body, your subconscious will tell you what it needs. But we're so distracted by what's going on outside, we don't even hear that internal message. When it's saying, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I need rest, I need some time out, I need a hug, we just ignore that because we're so busy, distracted by the external messages. So the most valuable, the most overriding piece of advice that I can give all of you today is reconnect with your true nature, with your inner nature. Listen to yourself. You don't need Julia, Anya, myself, or anyone else telling you what to do or what's important. You know at some level. You just tuned out and you weren't listening. And when we start listening is when we start to recognize what we need and we can take appropriate action to ensure our needs are met. So much love, everybody. Wishing you a wonderful week ahead. We will continue this Mental Health Awareness Week conversation next week. I'm hoping my lovely colleagues will be back with me. And in the meantime, please get your questions into us by Tuesday afternoon, 5 o'clock at the latest at recoveryourspark.org or timeforrecovery.org. Have a wonderful week.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.